Near closing time at the Gilded Trout, the kind of Portland restaurant where wealth whispered through every polished glass, Delilah Crane wiped down table 7 for the 3rd time. Her back ached, her uniform smelled faintly of bleach, and the rain outside beat against the windows like it wanted in. She was exhausted, invisible, and one overdue bill away from losing everything. Then a man rushed out of the private alcove, the one reserved for people whose names appeared in magazines. His face was tight, eyes red, phone pressed to his ear. "Doctor, tell me the truth," he said, voice cracking. "How long does my son have?" Delilah stopped cold. She knew that tone, every parent did. Minutes later, while clearing his table, she saw it. 10 perfect $100 bills left beside the check. Too much, too precise, too accidental. Her fingers hovered, trembling. "That's $1,000. The hostess whispered behind her. "Take it. No one will know." But Delilah whispered back, "He will." And in that single moment, soaked in fear and temptation, she made a choice that would pull her into the life and the secrets of a billionaire who didn't even know what he'd left behind. If this opening hooks you already, hit like and subscribe to Canada's Heartfelt Tales for more stories that hit deep. The rain had eased to a thin mist by the time Delilah stepped outside, clutching the envelope against her chest. The parking lot lights cast long shadows across the asphalt, and each footstep felt heavier than the last. She kept replaying the billionaire's voice in her head, his words breaking mid-sentence as he begged a doctor to be honest. That desperation pushed her forward through the cold night air. Her car sputtered awake, the headlights flickering like they were as tired as she was. She whispered to herself, not out of fear but out of determination, "I'm giving this back. That's it." The memory of Iris asleep on her worn-out mattress tried to pull her backward, reminding her how badly she needed that money, but something stronger pushed her onward. The hospital loomed ahead, tall and sharp against the gray sky. Inside, everything smelled like bleach and exhaustion. Delilah followed the signs to the ICU, her hands shaking as she held out the envelope to the nurse. The wait dragged on until the hallway quieted. Then Fletcher Kensington appeared. He paused when he saw her, as if unsure whether she was real or another piece of the nightmare he'd been trapped in for hours. She stood up slowly, offering him the envelope like a lifeline she wasn't sure he would take. "You didn't have to come all this way," Fletcher said, voice low but cracked around the edges. "You left something important," Delilah replied. "And you needed it more than I ever could." He opened the envelope, stared at the bills, then stared at her. "Most people wouldn't have done this. I'm not most people." That was the moment his guard slipped. His grief poured out in stilted breaths and unfinished words about his son, Owen, a 16-year-old boy who wanted to build skyscrapers someday. Delilah listened, not as a server speaking to a billionaire, but as a parent who understood what it meant to fear losing the person who gave life meaning. "You should talk to him," she said gently, "even if he can't talk back." He nodded, wiped his face, and walked away. Delilah watched him disappear behind the ICU doors, hoping her own daughter's fight had given her the strength to steady someone else for just a moment. 3 days passed. At work, she moved through her shift like a ghost, replaying the hallway, the envelope, the pain in his eyes. She was carrying plates to table 12 when Gordon, her manager, stalked toward her with his usual disapproval. "There's someone asking for you," he muttered. "And he looks like trouble." Delilah followed him to the entrance, and stopped. Fletcher stood there in a perfectly tailored suit, but the exhaustion was gone. His eyes were bright with relief she could almost feel in her bones. "He woke up," he said. "My son woke up this morning." For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Delilah covered her mouth with both hands, tears filling her eyes. "That's incredible." "It is," he said. "And I told him about you. About what you did. He said he wants to meet the woman who brought me back to myself." They stepped outside to talk, and Fletcher said something unexpected, something that made Delilah's breath catch. "You changed my life that night. And I'd like to change yours." She didn't know how to respond, so he pulled out an envelope. Inside was not money, but a job offer. Executive assistant, full benefits, childcare, a salary she'd never dreamed could be real. She tried to refuse, but he didn't let her. "You earned this," he said. "Not out of pity but because you see what others miss." The next morning Delilah gave her notice. Gordon barely looked at her, muttering something under his breath about charity hires. But she didn't care. She was stepping into a different world. Her first day at Kensington Innovations felt like being dropped into the deep end of a pool she'd never seen before. Glass walls, polished floors, staff who barely glanced her way. She felt out of place in her navy suit, but Fletcher welcomed her with a warmth that made the uncertainty bearable. He didn't waste time. He brought her into meetings, asked her opinions, trusted the instincts she didn't know she had. And she proved him right faster than she expected. During a quarterly review, she noticed an executive fumbling with numbers. He avoided eye contact, skipped pages too quickly, stammered through projections. Something didn't add up, and she told Fletcher privately. He investigated and discovered fraud. The executive was fired. That's when people began whispering whenever Delilah passed by. Some admired her. Most resented her. And one senior executive, Vivian Corbin, considered her a threat. Vivian visited Delilah's office one afternoon. Her heels clicked across the floor like punctuation marks to every insult she delivered. "You don't belong here," she said calmly, as though discussing the weather. "People like you don't survive in rooms like this." Delilah didn't flinch. "I'm here to work. That's all." "No, sweetheart. You're here because he feels sorry for you. But pity fades. And when it does, you'll be swept aside." Vivian left with a smile that felt like a warning carved into stone. The tension only grew as the company prepared for a major merger with Apex Solutions. The meeting felt like a battlefield disguised in suits and polite smiles. Delilah watched every detail, every glance, every unspoken signal. Something was wrong, and her instincts told her Vivian was at the center of it. Later, she confronted Fletcher in his office, laying the documents and her observations on the table. His face hardened with each word she spoke. Vivian was collaborating with the CEO of Apex to push Fletcher out. Slowly, quietly, permanently. "I trusted her," he said, breath shaking. "And she was ready to sell me out." The next day, he called an emergency board meeting. The room filled with tension so thick it felt like a second ceiling pressing down. Vivian sat tall, confident, until Fletcher dropped the evidence on the table like a hammer. Emails, private agreements, financial projections written behind his back. Vivian's face lost its cool composure. She tried to defend herself, but the board members she once controlled turned their backs on her. One by one, they sided with Fletcher. By the end of the meeting, Vivian Corbin was no longer employed. Security escorted her out of the building while she glared at Delilah through the glass doors. Her expression twisted with disbelief and rage. Delilah didn't look away. She had earned her place. But the consequences didn't end there. Word spread to other tech leaders. Vivian's reputation crumbled. Companies withdrew offers. Her name disappeared from industry events. She became a cautionary tale told behind closed doors, a symbol of ambition poisoned by greed. Meanwhile, Fletcher's trust in Delilah only grew. She helped him stabilize the company, uncover more hidden issues, and rebuild teams fractured by old loyalties. Iris thrived in the on-site childcare center, and Fletcher often stopped by to see her drawings pinned on the wall. In one of the late-night strategy sessions, Fletcher paused, studying Delilah with a look that carried gratitude deeper than any words. "You saved more than my company," he said quietly. "You saved me from losing everything I didn't realize I still had." Delilah didn't know what to say, so she simply nodded, letting the silence speak for both of them. As months passed, employees who once doubted her began seeking her guidance. They saw the integrity she carried into every decision. They saw the way Fletcher listened when she spoke. And they realized she wasn't a temporary presence. She was becoming a cornerstone of the company. But Vivian, now distant, furious, and humiliated, was not finished. She attempted one last move, filing a wrongful termination claim and leaking false stories to a business blog. It backfired spectacularly. The evidence Fletcher had archived was undeniable, and the blog issued a public retraction. Vivian ended up owing legal fees so high she had to sell her home. The moment the judgment was announced, Delilah felt something shift in her chest. Not triumph, not revenge, but the satisfaction of knowing that integrity had finally outweighed deceit. And this wasn't the end. Because the next step in Delilah's rise, and the final twist in this story, was about to unfold in a way no one at Kensington Innovation saw coming. And everything began the moment Fletcher walked into her office with a sealed folder under his arm. In the weeks that followed, Delilah moved through her new life with a steadiness she never knew she had. She no longer hesitated when stepping into boardrooms, and she no longer shrank when people looked her way. She had survived nights when everything felt impossible, yet here she was, shaping a future she once believed belonged only to others. One evening, as the office lights dimmed and the city glowed beneath the windows, Fletcher stopped by her doorway. He didn't bring files or questions, just a quiet look of respect. "You know," he said, "the night you returned that envelope, I thought you were saving me from a mistake. Turns out you saved much more than that." Delilah smiled, realizing something she had never put into words. Maybe we save each other in ways we don't expect. Outside, she saw Iris and Owen racing across the courtyard, laughter echoing between the buildings. A year ago, she couldn't imagine having enough light to fill a single room. Now, it stretched across her entire horizon. And in that moment, watching two children who had fought their own battles, she understood. Her life hadn't changed because someone rescued her. It changed because she chose honesty when no one was watching, and that choice kept opening doors she didn't know existed. The story wasn't about luck. It was about courage. If this chapter touched you, please like the video, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to Canada's Heartfelt Tales so more stories like this can find the people who need them most.